Hello, friends. Welcome to the Note Coach podcast. I'm your host, Suzanne Kohlberg, welcoming Kate Burgener today. I checked how to say the surname. Look at me go. And I invited Kate onto the show because she does interactive learning and workbooks. And before you have the nascent eye roll and be like, oh my gosh, Suze, this is the talk for you if you're an avid online course taker like me. I'm a course junkie. I've never met a bright, shiny object I didn't like. Yet, how many of them, the workbook, the PDF, the whatever, it's an afterthought. It's like they've just tacked it on there so it can be like, oh, I can make this look more value proposition. Or if you see the breakdown, it's like the videos are worth 1,000, the workbook's worth 400. And then you look at it, you're like, who the hell thought this was worth 400? And fun fact, I didn't realize this wasn't the case in America. So in Australia, by legal rights, like by law, you can't say valued at unless you've sold something at it. So I was looking at a course the other day that I was honestly interested in purchasing. And one of the lines was interactive Facebook group valued at $1,500. And I was like, how on earth do you decide that the Facebook group's worth $1,500? Like, who would pay $1,500? Like, anyway, all of this to say, they made their course this and this, and it added up to $15,000 worth of value that you could get for only $497. And it actually personally turned me off because I was like, all of this stuff is just hype and fluff. Like, who spends $1,000 for a PDF? Anyway, all of this to say, Kate, let us know. I'm so curious. How did you come into this line of work?
Well, I have to agree with you real quick on this whole like fake value of courses. Like I roll so hard at this is worth this and this is worth this and all added up. And I'm like, no, I don't know. Some of these things you made to give away. Like I've seen you participate in a bundle that was worth $1,100, but you developed this course just so you could like hand it away for free. Let's be real.
Well,
So
actually, we
I
can
think
start
all
there
of
because that
is
is such a
smoke
good
and
thing
mirrors.
to look at. Do you know May Kay sang?
Yes.
So at the beginning of the year, she did this amazing, it's called Not Quite a Summit Thingamabob. Like, what a name.
I went to it. It was
You
great.
went to it?
Yeah.
Did you listen to all the speakers?
I did. I even listened to yours truly.
I was going to say, I was on it. But what I loved so much about it was for anyone listening, we had to record a presentation. And then May Kay said, if you were to sell this, how much would you charge for it? Like, legitimately. And I said to her, in all honesty, my contribution's not going to add a whole lot of sexiness to your bundle because I know that I undercharge. Like I would sell this for no more than 50 Australian dollars. And that's, which would make it 35. So if you're joining one of these bundles that says, get all this stuff valued at thousands, and it's like, yeah, and there's Suzanne's $35 thing. But I think that's legit how much I would sell it for. And May Kay is like, no, this is the conversation. This is the space that I want to create real value. And sometimes I do bundle my offers. I'm like, you can get a coaching thing and this and this and this valued at 600 because I've sold it for 600. Mm-hmm. Yours today for like 500 or 450. And sometimes people are like, well, that's not that sexy. I'm like, well, we'd rather me say it was worth 15,000. So yeah. Anyway, back to we can riff. We can come back to this because I'm glad
tangent already.
Tangent already. But I'm so curious because I haven't come across anyone, honestly, and I've done this podcast for 400 and something episodes now. I've interviewed hundreds of people. Nobody's ever done what you do. So it fascinates me.
Thank you. I have heard that a lot. I'll explain what I can do with interactivity inside of a PDF, and people are like, sorry, a quiz? You can do calculations in a PDF? And I'm like, we can do, not the sky's the limit. There are limitations, but there are so many things beyond your fillable PDFs.
So for people who are listening who don't know what you do, actually, I'm going to break my own rules because usually I don't say to people till the end, tell people what you do. But for reference, what are we talking about here?
Okay. So what I can do inside of a PDF is incorporate all of these features that make it so much easier to learn and to take action from very structured content. And if, as I'm talking about this, you're like, I kind of get it, but I don't really get it. Like, there's a link that Suzanne has promised me will be in the show notes. where you can go and you can join my newsletter and learn more about PDFs on that, but also you can unsubscribe right away. I'm not picky about it, but the download that you get is an interactive, like kind of a workbook where it demonstrates like 12 different features. So there are buttons that you can toggle on and off that are like, tell me more about this feature. And then like a thing pops up. Or there is a multi-choice quiz where you can like click different buttons and see context pop up about the answer that you just gave. And it'll even, if you go through the entire thing, it'll even write an email that you can copy and paste and send to yours truly. And you could tell me all about this amazing interactive thing that you have just plotted out and you want to make a reality.
You know what it
So
makes me think of? When you're a
what?
kid, I'm sure I'm significantly older than you, and I know that they're not popular anymore. But did you ever read Choose Your Own Adventure books?
Of course I did, and I don't think you're actually older than I am by
It'd be
much, if
interesting.
at all.
But you know, I was telling my kids about this the other day, and they just gave me the most blankest look they've ever seen. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you know, the interactivity part of it is in like you read this and it's like, now will George go into the haunted scary mansion or will he go home to his mother? And like as a adult, I'll be like, that kid should be going home. But when I used to read them, or I would hold the page or put a bit of paper in so I could come back and read the other version.
Of course, we
And it
all
makes
did
me
that.
think now I should have actually downloaded this beforehand and had to play with it, because then I'd have questions. So if you want to come back later to a future episode when I have more questions, but what made you what? Because the point that's really standing out to me is the interactive learning and the actual focus on people getting what they came for. And I've got a whole YouTube playlist called Scam Questionable Business Practices, because I see so many people now, the focus is on what they can get, as in who will pay this and the value add and whatever, but not actually, not how much can I charge, but are people actually getting value for this? Are they learning anything? Are they applying it? Are they finishing it? So I think this is where your
For
work
sure.
comes in so magically, because it's like the interest is in, are people benefiting from the product they have purchased?
Yeah. So like that is the people that I want to work with are the people who actually care whether or not their customers are getting the transformation that they promised on their sales page. Because I think a lot of people, I don't know, maybe I'm a little bit, you know, rose-colored glasses about this. I feel like most people, when they make a course, they are like, I am so excited to change people's lives. They're going to get so much out of my knowledge. It's going to be amazing. But they aren't really like identifying the learning objectives, and they're not like taking their students through a clear progression. And some of that, let me be clear, I am not a teacher or an educator. I don't have like the ability to design your curriculum. So I partner with curriculum designers sometimes. But what I focus on is making it as easy as possible for people to go through like a broken down process where they're working on a little bit at a time and their answers are moving along automatically, or they're able to take action on like maybe there's a brainstorming field and they pick the things that move on. Like they don't have to go back and copy and paste their answer from a previous section. And like they don't, you know, I don't remember what I said 4 pages ago or the last time I opened this workbook. Everything moves along automatically, so you can break things down and really teach things like one step at a time. But then also we can incorporate things like quizzes so people can self-check their knowledge, which actually gives them confidence that they understand the material and they're ready to move on, without like sending them to your Google form link somewhere else on the internet where they're just going to like squirrel off into oblivion and never come back to the thing that they were working on once they've taken the quiz. And then we can use the interactivity to build really cool interactive tools. So one of the projects that I did very early on in developing interactivity, and I promise I will get back to how I stumbled into interactivity, because I know you asked it twice and we just keep
No, it's all
squirreling off
good.
ourselves. But one of the early projects that I did, Kirsty Fanton wanted to build a social proof sidekick, and she is like just an absolute genius. She is Australian, so I don't know if you're familiar with her, but she is a copywriter who has a background in psychology. So like used to work as a psychologist. So she knows the buying process, like the very pertinent questions to ask somebody when you're going to get social proof or like have a survey to send out after somebody purchases a product. So what we did for her social proof sidekick was made a survey builder. So there were like blocks of questions and you could customize them with like little Mad Libs fill in the blank kind of fields. And as you went through, you'd be like, okay, pick one question from this section, and you would click the checkbox or radio field or whatever was next to it. And as you went through, like you would like look at each section individually and make your decisions and make any personalizations that you needed to. And then when you got to the last page of this builder, there was a field that you could just copy and paste the entire survey, just the questions you chose, just the customizations that you had filled in. You copy and paste that entire thing into Tally or Typeform or even an email, and then send it out. And it just made it incredibly actionable. So it wasn't like, okay, copy and paste this into a Google Doc over here. And oh, now copy and paste this other one from a PDF to a Google Doc, where like sometimes it's not gonna copy and paste nicely because there's like a line break and stuff. Like you're not highlighting the individual questions. You just click, click, click. These are the ones that I want. And then there's a field that's easy. It's not got like weird formatting that's gonna copy over when you go to drop it in your email. And you can just send it off and be done with it and like move forward and take action on sending the survey. Like you don't have any more excuses. You could just send the survey and you're ready to go.
What brings to mind for me with that is I remember being at school and they had like, you'd be given a page and you'd have to put a couple of words in or a sentence in, like fill in the blanks kind of thing. And then, as you said, without the formatting nightmare of suddenly where'd that line go? Or now that whole page is missing, or there's no context, or it comes over here and it goes over into your Google spreadsheet and then it's out of order. And you're like, what am I looking at? Like, I think this, interactivity, like this part that you're talking about, a lot of people just don't have the skill to be able to create it. Hence, why they need somebody like you.
Absolutely.
But the idea behind it is to make it smooth, because also too, as you said, if it's a questionnaire or something people are answering and you don't necessarily answer all of them, then it's clunky when you try and extract the data from it, or that stupid red asterisk is coming up going, this field must be filled in. And you're trying to scroll back going and looking at what you missed. And then it's just like, I just can't look at this anymore. Click off. And then they're lost, as you said.
Yeah. So like we were focusing so much on how to make the process super easy for people. And then if you go look at the sales page for her social proof sidekick, like 50% of the testimonials are about like her knowledge is amazing. And the other 50% are, this was easy. I use this in my business every time I start a new product, every time I have a new offer. I pull this thing up once a week. Like it's all people who are really thrilled with how easy it is to use this PDF. And what makes Kirsty look like a genius is like people open this thing regularly and they see her branding and they see it's beautifully done and they associate her name with, that was easy. And like, that is the association that you want with your customers.
Well, I think that's another great point. So like, often in business, we hire someone to do something that we can't do. So it's like, I hire someone to create the website, or I hire someone to do my branding. And I remember the first lot of branding I had done, I've used the same brand twice, but she gave me this amazing Dropbox folder with all the links. Some of them are PNG and some of them are JPEG and some of them are there's whatever where the background's taken. Like, here's your assets. I'm like, great. What do I do with these now?
What now?
I've got all these brand assets, and I think so often we do this in business. Like, thank you for doing this thing for me, but like, how do I utilize it now? I have all this stuff that looks pretty and amazing and sits there, and I don't understand the difference between PNG and JPEG and whatever, the one where they take the background out. It's like, oh, so you can put like, because I'm not a designer.
Sure. So, Suze, have you tried to build a multi-page doc in Canva yourself?
Gosh, no, I don't build anything. Like I I have, so you know what do they say? The visual, kinesthetic, auditory, like the learning styles. And then if you go really deep into it, the third one's ID, like internal dialogue. I don't know. Are you familiar with that? I'm actually
Vaguely, yeah.
kinesthetic ID. So like if it feels good. And that's why it's funny when you look at my content and things that I do a podcast that's not edited, and I have the branding and stuff done so I can just put it out there. And I don't even do, in terms of cover images and stuff, don't get me started on that. And I know the visual side of my brand is down and is low, but it's not the part that is my strong suit. And also personally, I don't care. Like I never look at somebody's thumbnails or they're this or that. Like I listen because I'm auditory or auditory kinesthetic. So like if someone gives me something that is a loom or something that I can have this on one screen and this on the other, I understand depending on what it is. Like I was talking to someone the other day about Facebook ads, and I was like, if you tell me go look at the brand manager and click this, that means nothing to me. Like but because it changes all the time, she's like, oh, if I do what you're wanting, and also depending where you are in the world and what yours looks like and which browser you use, it looks different.
Sure.
So yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So like you could not be bothered to make a beautiful workbook, nor should you really spend your time on that. That is not a good use of Suzanne time. Suzanne time is better gaining momentum and plowing forward and doing cool stuff. But I live and breathe document design. Like it makes me so happy to puzzle piece a page together and get like the sidebar where I want it to be and a pull quote and like have everything balanced and move the reader forward. Like I love doing that. And Canva is not the ideal place in which to do that. For some people, like they'll grab a long like magazine PDF template or something like that, and they will attempt to work their way through it. And sometimes they'll send it out in the Canva viewer, which is just a sheer nightmare. Like you like click one page at a time. There's no scrolling because you know the thing that you need to get to is like way further down in the document. Like Canva is not built to make a document that is easy to lay out, is beautiful, is cohesive, and is fun to view, especially if you use the Canva viewer. I cannot stress enough, don't use the Canva viewer. But my clients, like sometimes they'll mess a little bit with a Canva doc, but that is like not where they should be spending their time at all. And like maybe they're going to throw together a Google Doc for maybe the first version of their course. And that's great, except when somebody opens a Google Doc, it looks like every other Google Doc. Like you could invest a little bit of time into tweaking the typography and adding a header and stuff, but it's really difficult to get it to do like really cool layouts that like give the people the little bits of information they need right where they need it on the page. This is okay for certain applications where you need to trade information back and forth. Like if somebody is like, you fill out this Google Doc, I will open it and we'll go back and forth and talk about it and like leave comments and stuff. There's times when a Google Doc is okay. But if we're talking workbooks,
if you're testing
for sure.
Yep. Or if you're new and your budget's really low, like we're not, as I just want anyone listening, we're not like poo-pooing or downplaying. Because I think sometimes too, people will never experiment. So Canva, Google Doc, I've dipped my toe in the water of all of these things, but you get to a point where you kind of are wanting to take it to the next level. And this is what you're talking about. Yes. So next step.
When you're ready for a luxe experience,
yes,
don't try to make these tools do what they're not built to do. Like they're not built to give this kind of finesse and control over how it looks. You're right. You're absolutely right that they're perfect stepping stones. And a lot of things start in those places. And that's awesome. But then when you're ready to like really jet fuel that thing forward, like we can make a way better thing that's going to communicate your brand better. It's going to move your students through the material in a way that really serves them a lot better. And just, I don't know, it's a next level experience for sure.
I have a question. Sorry to interrupt you again, but so, of course. Okay. Would this be for a particular product or offering, or would this be for someone's entire like brand, like welcome to the Suze verse, this is how you get to know what I do? Like, where would you position something like this in somebody's business?
Well, I suppose you could have some sort of like welcome packet or something that has like quizzes and interactivity and like little like coaching exercises or something like that. But I don't think that that's a great fit, because you do need to educate people a little bit in how to open an interactive PDF. The only major drawback to an interactive PDF is it has to be opened in Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Reader.
Okay,
And
so it's got to be on a computer, not a phone.
yes.
Yeah.
So it's not mobile friendly. It is like when you're ready to sit down and accomplish business time stuff.
So definitely not
Like,
for your freebie or for people just coming across you like for the first time and going, oh, this chick looks cool, I can't even open her stuff. Next. But if
yeah,
they've committed to downloading or buying or taking that next step beyond she
yes,
looks cool on the internet, this could be a good thing.
yes. So I actually have done a really cool interactive lead magnet that had like some very cool calculations. And then like when you exited a field, there was like a little bit of coaching that they wanted you to pay attention to when you change this price lever, like see what happens down here. So that was a very special use case. But in general, you want somebody who's invested in making that document work. So like, that's not going to be your lead magnet. That's not going to be somebody who like clicked over from Instagram, is still on their phone. Like,
But I
it's,
think this is
that's
an
not.
important thing for everyone to consider. Like when you think about your business or your business model, sometimes some people, not me, are very organized and well thought out, and they go, this leads to this, leads to this. They have, I hate the term, I'm going to cringe when I say it, but they have the funnel mapped out. I personally, the thing makes me want to die inside. I don't want to be in anyone's funnel, but do you know what I mean? They have a
Yeah.
clear pathway of how someone finds you versus then, you know, pays more attention versus pay you.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the people who are more kind of haphazard, but also too, at the end of the day, if you if you don't have a path for people to go from coming across you to actually paying you, do you have a business or an expensive hobby? Like a business is
Mm-hmm.
an exchange of dollars for a service. So this point, like, and I just want to be clear about where you put this. And obviously there's going to be exceptions to everything. But if you're
Yeah.
having something that you deliver, and it sounds like that Kristen or whatever her name was, it's like this is part of the service that she offers, and you get this document. And I love the idea if it's a living thing that you actually use. And sometimes people
Mm-hmm.
do put Google Docs or Google Forms or things, and they have their place, but sometimes they are clunky or they're weird or they just don't quite work. And this is a more like specialized experience. So
Mm-hmm.
have you got an example of someone like a specific product that you've used? Is this just so people listening can kind of get an idea in their head?
Sure. So this works great as like course materials that accompany video modules, where you don't want somebody that is like just does not learn well from video and is like, I can kind of try to like build this toolbox myself, but I don't totally know what I'm doing. This is a good accompaniment to that. I've also done a workbook that was a course. So it was like walking through price, like pricing, teaching you about like the different pricing myths that you might already believe, and how to reframe your mind around that kind of stuff. And then like how to consider the calculations that you need to make, like go through your expenses and then go through your business expenses and figure out how many hours you want to work and stuff like that. So the calculations happen inside of the PDF. And it's not, okay, go over to the spreadsheet over here and like forget all of this information that you just were reading. It's the calculations are happening alongside the information. And so it's like this frame text around it. So you understand why this calculation has impact on your life and your business, instead of just like, all right, this is another spreadsheet that's just going to get lost in my Google Drive.
But I
And
think
like,
that's
I'm
such a
never going to
good
see it
point,
again.
because if you had it in the document, especially if you're looking at pricing, so, you know, if you've
Mm-hmm.
got a business and you're like, okay, if I charge $20 for this, how many then do I need to sell? And how much is taken away by Stripe? And how much is taxes? And how much is super? And all this sort of stuff. And then how many people do I need? And if you can see that kind of clearly, rather than having to be like that chick with the meme, on the whiteboard, and she's got the circle and the line, no, but if you can just a simple kind of alter this one factor, how much does the bottom line pump out to? That seems very helpful, as opposed to like trying to get out the old pen and paper and figure it out the old-fashioned way.
Absolutely. So like, it's, you don't want somebody running off to a different tool or another platform, or like even like working on their desk and then looking up and like they've, moved to a different browser tab or whatever. Like, you want them to focus and keep them within the document, because then they're going to like have that momentum to move forward. And then another thing that I ended up helping develop for somebody, and I think that this is really cool. She had a signature service writing case studies for people, and she only had so many of them that she could sell in a given month. So she would have people who would approach her, and either her wait list would be too long, or they weren't ready to invest in like this. It was a long, like they do the interviews, and then she writes multiple pages, and like this nice, like 4 to 5 page PDF that people can send out as a case study. So if people were not ready to invest, or if she didn't have space, she could downsell them to this write your own case study workbook. So it was like a simplified version of her process. And she walked people through and like showed them how to choose which person to talk to for their interview, helped them write the interview email. And so that was another one of these like template things where people would pick whether they talked about their business using I or we, and then they would like have a couple of Mad Libs fields that they would fill in, and then they would go to the next page and there's a field that they can copy and paste, throw it right in their email, send it off. Action, because like they don't want to get the sending somebody the email for an interview. It's so like emotionally fraught for most people, including me, that like you want to make that last step so easy. There's no more procrastinating. All you got to do is copy and paste and hit send. You're good. So she walked through like her whole process, and then people had this like little 1-page template that like she helps them build the headline and the tagline and like the 3 challenges and the 3 solutions. Like she just walks you through this whole thing. And in the end, people have a really usable product that they can be really proud to send out. But there's also space for them to be like, this is great. When I'm ready to afford her signature service, like that's still a separate product that I can aspire to buy. And then every time they open this up to like run a new interview again, they're
Her
thinking
branding,
of,
her name, her
yes,
messaging. But
her
I think
whole
this
thing.
is such a great thing for people listening to pause and think outside the box. Like sometimes when I think interactive spreadsheet, like numbers, I think, well, that's easy for somebody who is doing a business coaching or helping people with their pricing or something like that. But I love this example for being outside the box. The other one I can think of, so there's a lady called Michelle, her surname's not coming to me, Michelle Whitehead. She's a lawyer, and she does
Okay.
contracts for people. So contracts where she could do them one-on-one, like she writes. So if you work with me, my one-to-one contract is written by her. But she also
Mhm.
has templates similar to what you're talking
Mhm.
about, where say for whatever reason the one-to-one work is outside your price range or the wait list is too long, you can buy her DIY templates similar to sounds like
Yeah.
what you're doing, and she does the prompts and you fill in the blanks, and at the end you hit huzzah and then it's created for you. And I think, so or if you were a person who helped people with copy, I
Mhm.
just want people to think not just numbers, but like quizzes. There's another lady I know, Denise Litchfield, she has a quiz about something like what kind of psychic are you or whatever, like which Claire do you use, like Claire audience, Claire sentience. There's so many applications for this is what I'm trying to say in a convoluted way.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. And one of the things that is really cool is this can apply to coaching in a really unique way. So even if you're not doing like a lot of super fancy, like we're going to brainstorm a bunch of things and then we're going to narrow them down and send the answers on or something like that. Like just the simple act of moving somebody's answer from one space to another space They didn't have to copy and paste it. They can see how they are progressing and how like their answer has evolved throughout working with a coach. That we can do text inside of a field that's like prompt text, and it could just be like, fill in your greatest fear here or something like that. Or it could be like really descriptive and supportive. And it's like, think about what keeps you up at night and blah, blah. Like we can really customize what that looks like. And then somebody clicks in and they go to type, and there's like a little thing that's popped up, and it's like, remember, like, this is the thing that is important to you. Or like, we could have page elements that turn on and off and incorporate coaching through these different features in a way that kind of makes it feel like the coach is sitting there with somebody and like holding their hand as they go through whatever the materials that they're working through too.
Well, I think that's an excellent point, because why do most people hire a coach? Because they have a goal. I want to start a business, get on 100 podcasts, make $10,000, lose 10 kilos, whatever the thing is. You hire someone to work with you. So people work with me because they want to set boundaries and say no without feeling like a bitch. So if I do the onboarding with them, and it's like, what are your goals at the end of our 6 months together? And then if you had something like this to help remind you of your goals, because we forget, because stuff happens in the day to day. Like, you might be working with your coach for 6 months, and this is the goal I want at the end of 6 months. But then this week, my dishwasher broke down and my kids started bickering, and, my mother-in-law, and like, you get stuck in the weeds of the day to day. And I love this kind of thing to help bring back the big picture or the long-term goals, or what you got into this in the first place. Or you have a little win over here, and it's like, well, do I want to keep going down this line, or do I want to go back to what I was doing initially, especially in business? Like, there's no point. Squirrel, bright shiny thing. Oh, I could do this. So this kind of reminder to help keep you aligned with what your vision was in the first place.
Yeah. So, I mean, exactly the idea of like adapting things as people go through. Like, I'm onboarding for a coaching program right now, and I started filling out the questionnaire 2 days ago, and then I sat down today and I'm like, oh, I already have to change some things. Like what I want in the moment might be different, totally different day.
Yeah,
So
which day do you
like
ask me?
I know, helping people, reminding them what their goal is like really useful, because like you've put it out into the universe, and like, now this is the thing that I have said is important to me, and having like pulling that along. And so maybe you've got a new exercise, and it's like, remember, your goal is X. And so you could like keep that in mind as you're working through the different materials, but then just like not having to have somebody go back to the front of the workbook and be like, what was it that I wanted to do? Like, I don't even remember. This was, 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
A lot
back to the front
happened
of the
in 2
workbook too,
weeks.
depending on how you use it, like scrolling back up and finding it. Or my question, because this is purely self-serving, but I'm just, this is why I love having my own
Yeah.
show. If you've created this interactive PDF, how does it go if you put it on something like a Remarkable or a tablet? Like, does it then prompt the person in that section? Because that's, I don't know if you're familiar with the Remarkable at all.
hmm Yeah. So again, it has to be opened in Adobe Acrobat or Adobe Reader. And I have
Yes.
tested a couple of things on like an iPad or a tablet. And unfortunately, the more sophisticated interactivity doesn't work that way, because some of it is just like really simple and some of it requires JavaScript coding, and
Well, it's just a
it just breaks
reminding
the
of people.
coding.
You'd need to re-educate me, because I do everything on my.
Yeah.
But that's my thing I don't like about my Remarkable personally, is scrolling back up, especially if I'm like 60 pages in. I'm like, where was that thing? Whereas sometimes
Oh my
having
golly.
something, on paper or printed out, the advantage of that is you can just flip, or you can use those sticker note things in the margin. So that's always
Oh,
been my
sure.
downside of electronic stuff, trying to find where the thing is that I answered before.
Absolutely. I mean, we were just talking about Jamie, and she, like, I did a thing with her to figure out some messaging, and I had to like keep scrolling back up in her workbook to find out like what 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 is my like golden thread thing that she wanted, and there were no like hyperlinks anywhere, so I couldn't jump around easily. And I was like, Jamie, let me make you a workbook. And she does want me to make her a workbook after talking about my workbooks for like 6 weeks straight. She's like, these are amazing, I need it too.
Yeah, 100%. So for people who are listening who are kind of curious, because for reference, before we got on, Kate's like, I don't know how you're going to explain this in a podcast, because this, I imagine, is something very visual, and
Mhm.
sometimes you got to see, and that's why we've got the link in the show notes to go check it out, play around with it. But if people are listening and kind of like, I'm kind of following along with you guys and picking up what you're putting down, I'm getting the idea, whereabouts in their business would they be, or in what particular thing would this be of best use to them? So Jamie, for example, has a process that she takes people through that you've got to experience because you've hired her.
Mhm.
But for people who are listening to this, like, whereabouts in their business would they be that they'd be like, Kate would be the next step to make sense to hire?
So this is the best fit for something that is a proven offer that you are ready to kind of have like the 2.0 version.
Mhm.
It can be, for Kirsty's social proof sidekick, that was the first time, like that was the first iteration of it. But she already kind of had a vision of what she wanted for it. And she's also like had other very successful offers. So she could kind of fiddle around with this new thing. But if you are developing your business and you are like kind of dabbling in this new offer, like you're not ready to talk to me yet. I mean, I'll talk to you. I love to talk to people about how we can incorporate stuff for your business, but you're probably not ready for the investment yet. So it would be probably when you're on 2.0 of your course, or like you've sold your course a couple of times and you know that like the bones of it are really good, but maybe it's time to improve the materials that go with it, or maybe you're finding a couple places where your students are getting hung up and you're like, okay, we're ready to rework how this flows, and I want to make this a lot better for people because I know that people are interested in this subject matter, and I know that they like learning from me. So generally in that area.
I love that. And I love that reminder too, because you've tested it. It's not the beta, it's not the 1.0. You know that this has got
Mhm.
legs, but now you want to maximize it. There's a lady, Lara Eastburn, she says you want to pour gasoline on the fire. It's like you've got this fire and now you want to ramp it up. And whenever she says that, I'm like, yeah. So, because I think sometimes people do invest too early or too soon, or in something they're not entirely sure on. And then there's like,
Yeah.
I'm sunk this much deep on a website or on this, that then it doesn't have yet the legs. So it's kind of like, I've tested this and now I want to make, increase my finish rates, increase the
Yep.
user friendliness, the be able to appeal to different audiences. So like if you come into my world, you have to be really good on the listening type side of it. The visual side, I know that that's not my strength at this point. And then it's like, but if I want to bring that aspect into it, I now know the person. But and also too, I loved your point about as a positioning tool, maybe you do have a high-end one-to-one or high-end package, or a long wait list. So
Yeah.
this can help you create something that, keeps people in your orbit, or
Mhm.
gives them something that they can make some progress while they're waiting to do the next level of work with you.
Yeah, if you have like a coaching package or a signature service that is $3,500 or something, and you have people who are like, oh, I'm not ready for that at this time. And you're like, okay, are you ready for something that's like 750? That's like a light version. How many of those do you need to sell to make up the investment in developing it? And is it worth capturing those people whose interest you already had, but whose budgets were not a match for your signature service? And then like helping them have a win, helping them see the value in the kind of work that you do, and having them associate that, or you, with, I did a cool thing, I'm very proud of this product that I have now.
I think that's such an excellent point too, because yeah, whereabouts is it, and how I love your point of how many do I need to sell to make back this,
Mhm.
and then once you've made it back, and then you keep selling them, like how much was it worth
It's
to you?
just
Because
profit.
I think that people will often not like it's kind of like if you're in the ads game and people talk about, oh, well, I'm sinking this much on ads, but how much is that per lead? Like what's your spreadsheet? What are you looking at? What's your data there for? Actually, ads person I was talking to the thing she was showing me made no sense to me. Maybe I'll make an introduction, but it's kind of like when you can
Ads
see.
make no sense to me, I gotta
No, but
say.
her spreadsheet she showed me, I think could lead
Uh-huh.
into what you were saying. Because at the end of it, it spat out how much it was per lead versus them getting onto your list versus them buying a product like, but I think the positioning for where it is in your business, as you said, if you've got a higher end offer, if you've got a mid-tier offer, this is
Mhm.
how much it's going to be. And I imagine, I don't know, I should ask the question and not assume, because it all happens when we make an assumption. If people are not quite sure and they want to have a chat to you about it, do you offer like a discovery call, discussion call kind of thing for people?
Absolutely. So yeah, we have like I'm kind of curious about workbook discovery call, and that is free to talk to me about. Like I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around it. And then if you have like a product or like a signature framework or some sort of like workbook that you're ready to make interactive, and you're like, let's sit down and talk about the nitty gritty, what needs to happen, what I need to prepare this material before we launch it in. There is also a paid consult, and you'll walk away like with exactly what you need to do to turn these blocks of text into like exercises that will help somebody move forward with the knowledge instead of just like reading it passively, which is not gonna
Yeah, well,
not gonna give them the jet fuel that they need.
there's that quote or that proverb, to know and not to do is not to know. So many times people will read or reread or reread and reread.
Mhm.
And then it's like, I get it. Like, I get it intellectually, but, can I actually go and put this together? So
Yeah,
last
and
question
it's
before we finish up, because,
yeah.
we've got around it, but what got you into this in the first place? I'm super curious.
Oh my God. Okay. I figured out the first interactive thing of moving just one piece of text from one field to another field totally by accident. I was designing a registration form for a client of mine, and I copied and pasted the fields so they were all going to be the same size, and like lined them up, and I sent it off to them. And they were like, this looks great. When we fill this one thing in, it fills all of the things in the same way. And I was like, oh, that's not how you wanted that to work. Let me see how I can fix that. And I found out in Adobe Acrobat, which is the professional one, when you copy and paste a field, it keeps the same name. So when two fields are named the same thing, they carry the same information. So just typing in one automatically mirrors it to anything else with the same name. And I was like, okay, so I just have to name these things different things. So that's fine. I can do that. But also, it got my brain ticking like, well, it seems like there might be a time when you would want that to happen, even if it was just I type my name once and then it's filled in at the top of every other page of this form or something like that. But then I started thinking about it in terms of education tools, in terms of information tools. And I have a good friend who used to be a biology teacher, has now quit business and is going to be a genetic counselor after like another year and a half of schooling. So it sucks
Well,
because I
that is
can't
so
partner with her
cool.
anymore. It is very cool. But she was like, oh, I can think of a million ways that we could use this. And she and I just kind of joined forces, and she would develop, again, I said curriculum designers are going to figure out like how to structure your stuff and how to make sure that you are setting the students up for success. And then she would like be like, okay, this is what the exercises will look like, and here's what the fields need to do. And as I got deeper into this, I realized all of the different things that you can do. And even when Kirsty was like, can I check like boxes next to these questions, and can it like automatically, I don't think it was even that. I think she just wanted to have a field in the middle, again, Mad Lib style, a field in the middle of a sentence that somebody could customize, and then they would like drag, copy, and paste, highlight the whole thing. And she was like, my designer told me that you can't do that. Do you have any idea how to make that happen? And I was like, Kirsty, I don't know how, but give me like an hour to look it up. And so like I approached every project with the spirit of, if I don't already know how to do it, I'm gonna find out very quickly if it's possible, and then we will make it happen. So yeah, there's some things that you can't do. Like you can't make a bar graph in an interactive PDF, but like there are so many creative things that you can do with this interactivity that it's just like, I don't know, what do you got? Let me see if I can gamify your quiz for you. Let me see like what different things we can pull in and just explore and play with the interactivity.
But last thing, because we're almost at time and I appreciate it so much. It's just come to mind, like the gamification, like the making it fun. When I was a kid, and I literally have it on the shelf behind me, my mum like got one of those personalized books made, where it's got my name and my sister's name. And it's so funny because like it was done in the 80s, so it's so bad. Like the font of the book is one, and then where my name is stamped in, and it's not quite lined up, and and all this sort of stuff. And I was like, this reminds me of that, but like on steroids, come so far. And like the things that you could put in if you did to that, like with the children and seeing their dates of birth, their favorite food, their like you just put in some stuff at the beginning, and then at the end, the sky's not even the limit of how you could apply this to make it relevant to your business. And I just think, in terms of, we started talking about courses and completion rates and stuff, but also gamification and making it fun. And as you're reading through the thing, like, oh, this thing, it really knows me because of some stuff that you put in at the beginning to personalize it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it. So, Kate, we've kind of already covered what you do, but let the listeners know if they're listening to this and they're kind of like, oh, yeah, I kind of get it, I kind of don't, or I've got questions or whatever, where is the best place for them to find you and follow you?
So that link that will be in the show notes is at kateburgener.com/explore-interactivity. And there you can get on my newsletter and you can download this, I don't know, it's like 17 pages worth of interactive stuff that you can play with. And you can actually like, because you're experiencing it, you can see like how it applies. Like there's a drop down that shows you like 3 different things depending on what you choose. There's all kinds of cool stuff. And it's like, once you start playing with these little features, you can start to picture where they might be incorporated in something that you're developing. If you want to just be a chatty Cathy with me, I am on Instagram at kate.burgener. At Kate Burgener is a German artist and who has never posted as far as I know. So there is the dot in between my name. And then I have a static grid. I don't post, but I love to hop in stories and I love to talk in DMs with people about fun stuff. So
Kate's one of the rare exceptions of people I'll actually DM. Like those of you who know my show well, I'm like, I don't DM, but Kate DMs me, I'll actually answer. But yeah, she might have a static grid similar to me, but she actually is chatty in Instagram, unlike me. So send her a message, she will respond. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm gonna go sign up and play around with this workbook thing. And yeah, if anyone could break it, it'd be me. But then I'll message you and you'll be like, I've got a fix. But I just think something a little different, a little gamifying, making it fun, increasing completion rate, and also being able to appeal to audiences who learn for a different style to you. It's really valuable, the work that you do.
Thank you so much. It was so fun chatting with you, Suzanne.
Thank you. Bye for now.